Hello. Do we have audio?
Good morning.
We can
Hello.
hear you. Hello. Hello, Kara. Hello. Hello, Sarah. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you all? Thank you for being there. There are still people arriving. I'm admitting, and I think I will configure here the that everyone can share, and I will disable the admitting the room. Let me say. Okay, now everyone can enter. Okay, so welcome. I'll just give some more 2 minutes for us to start, but thank you so much for being there already, all of you. You are having a good audio from my side, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. We can hear you.
Very good.
Okay. So just one more minute and let me see. Okay.
Yeah. I think someone has their hand up, Pedro.
Yes, Kira?
Someone has their hand up. Can you see that?
I think, let me see. I think it's not it's
Oh, it's just a symbol. Oh,
yes,
right. Okay.
it's an icon from screen. Yeah.
I thought it was a very fancy hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Cool. So I think to begin, what makes more sense is to explain how this seminar came about. And of course, there are lots of details of organization and so on. But I think the most relevant is to say that the idea of seminar started on another seminar that occurred in the end of the year, last year, where Sarah and Chiara, they were presenting. And they presented very complementary approaches, and it was really interesting to see the interaction and how everything was developed, and almost immediately gave me the idea of producing this seminar for developing the theme that seemed more or less obvious, that both of her were approaching, and and with their help, we built the call for papers and lots of other things, namely also some of the participants you are here, and also the program itself, composition, and they both of her the two, they were helping and guiding a little bit my impulse to make these things happen, and so on. So thank you for them, for Chiara and Sarah, for doing this. They are like the I don't know how to put it, the starting point of all this seminar. I think it's the best way to place it. And well, this is it. I will try to keep the times. I will be the moderator for all the sessions. So I will try to keep the times organized, and I will be looking at the program and introducing everyone to everyone, and I will be here for your assistant also, So I don't know, Chiara and Sarah, if you want to say some words at this point, just some hello or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, hello everyone. And just thanks to Pedro, and it's great to be working with Sarah again. I met Sarah many years ago, so this is such a nice opportunity to work with you. And thanks for everyone to agreeing to speak and present at today's and tomorrow's workshops. I'm so excited to hear everyone's presentations. You can close your eyes and ears when you hear mine, but I'm excited to hear yours. Yeah, that's it.
And I would echo the enthusiasm, Pedro, that you've expressed in Kira. And Pedro, thanks to you for truly being the engine behind this, both in terms of the concept and the organization. And thank you for letting us know about the time today. So that was helpful for those of us who are not in your time zone. So, and I would just say too, I am so excited to see so many names that I recognize from the larger drawing universe, and I'm very keen to see the images and words that you bring forth today. So let us go forth.
Yeah, regarding the time, I need to give credit to Ruth Broadbent. She was the one that gave me attention to it, and I was, oh God, it's going to happen now, so I need to send all these emails and stuff. So hopefully it worked. Let's see in the program if someone is on delay or something. And I thank you all for the flexibility for the time, because it's a 1 hour change, and in some places it makes some difference. And thank you for that. This is a online seminar, so many of you, we all are in very different time zones. So this is a very sensitive topic, and also very interesting and relevant to be here. So that's it. But it's a challenge. When time changes, it's a challenge. So I was a bit afraid that this could be problematic, but hopefully it will not be. So that's it. So, okay, we have the program. It's split in 2 panels. The first panel, and it's 2 panels both today and tomorrow. The time will be more or less the same, or the same, for both days, and the panel structure is similar. So, and it's balanced. Of this more or less the same number of speakers in each panel, and the first panel today and tomorrow will be, it's called Nature. The idea was to I don't know, make an umbrella to more devoted to observation of nature, and without so much presence of the human factor there. The second panel, it's with a declared human factor presence there, and the observation of nature from that point of view. Although this is very generic, very, putting everything in the same bag. So it's not so linear, and everyone have their own approach, and so it's very individualized. So it's just like a way to try to organize the information. So we will have the first panel now with 3 speakers, and then a break, session of question and answers, and then a break, a tea break for 20 minutes. And then the second panel with another 4 presenters, ending today with Sarah, a participatory drawing exercise you're going to make, and then in the end some question and answers moment also. So hopefully we'll end 10 minutes before 20, 8 of the night here, but different time zones. So this is just the Lisbon reference here, and that's it. I don't want to take much more time. I don't know, maybe I don't know if you want to present Brent, because you know it, Sarah.
Hey, I'd be happy to start us. I'm delighted to introduce my colleague, Brent Dedas, based at the University of South Carolina in the US. And I am just, again, Brent, your work has resonated with me as soon as I met you and it. And again, I'm delighted that you can bring it to the larger fold.
Well, thank you, Pedro, and thank you, Sarah, for letting me know about this. Do I need to share my screen from my side?
Yeah.
Or do you share it?
No, you can share. Let me just say that Brent is from the University of South Carolina. The presentation is the Honeybee Blueprint Project and explores the architectural organizational principles of honeybee colonies, drawing parallels between their natural structures and potential applications in human design. Go, Brent, it's your
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Okay. So before I begin, I will have to say that I do have a website and I do have an Instagram, because I will forget to mention this. And so if you need to get in contact with me, you can through those channels. And I was told that this should be a 20-minute talk, so I'll try to keep it a tight 20. So first, I'll say that my artwork is influenced by growing up on my father's construction sites, and all the materials that I saw there on the sites, the raw materials, and my artwork has been mostly about labor and geography and systems, and talking about the worker has led me to this, the worker bee. And so the image you're seeing now are of individual honeybees and construction materials. And I do want to mention that Anna Atkins, and people who are familiar with cyanotype are probably tired of hearing this, but she was the first person to use cyanotype to create a book, an illustrated book of her photographic images using cyanotype. The first person ever to use images in the book. So that's incredible. And she was using plant specimens, which I think relates to my work. So without her, wouldn't be possible. Talking a little bit about process. I start before the sun rises, and I have to prime my paper with emulsion. And I do this first because I need to leave a lot of room, a lot of time for this to dry, while I am then trying to make my setup for the day for the honeybees. This is a video of the making of an image. So I am generally using a protective bee suit. I come in with the dry paper. I slide it under an acrylic barrier. And while that image is sort of cooking, I'm rinsing another image. And then when I'm done rinsing the image, I come back and I'll pull a new image out and head straight to the rinse bath. And so this sort of sequence happens throughout the day. It does not stop. I do not stop. The bees do not stop. And so it's an all-day process, but mostly because of the timetable of the sun, and also because of the cost of the paper, the emulsion. You have the right day, the right conditions, and you just want to get the most out of it. I have various ways of getting the bees closer and closer to where I want them to be at the moment when the paper is ready. Here are some bees on a bee feeder. This is the work in the rinse bath, and you can see very faintly that the bees have crossed over this sort of threshold where they stayed in one spot for a moment long enough to be recorded. by the cyanotype process. What you're seeing here is the humble beginnings of my project. In the ideation process for this project happened in 2016 when I was living in Nashville, Tennessee, and my original thought, I was trying to make a video with the bees, and that was just turning out to be a big failure because I needed more bees and than I had, and my vision was too ambitious. And so as I was spending a lot of time and a lot of money trying to accomplish my goals, I, through necessity, wanted to just think of a way, how can I record the presence of the bees in another way? And it dawned on me because I had just used cyanotype in teaching with my students. I was teaching a class called The Landscape. So instead of painting the landscape or drawing the landscape, we were making artwork with the landscape. And this was the first series were X's, where I would just draw an X. I consider this process drawing. But I would draw an X and I treated it like a scientific experiment. And as I got better and better, I found ways of getting more and more bees. I found I was learning more about the times of day and materials. And you can see here where the emulsions quickly put on. You see these individual bees in the bottom right-hand corner, but you see them sort of almost like surrounding the organic materials that I've put down for them to come and get. And then also I'll say that the bees never come in contact with the cyanotype chemicals. They're on top of the barrier. And so there's no mixture. The bees are not harmed in this process. They're coming to collect stores for the winter, and they come and go, and that's it. From there, I was able to accomplish more sophisticated, larger images. And this image is about 38 by 50 inches. This is probably the maximum amount of one image that I can do, simply because my arms are not long enough to pull a wet piece of paper out of the bath any larger than this and not have a big mess or destroy it in the process. This is a great example of how from morning transitioning into afternoon, from moment to moment, you see that this was the same day, but the image is changing. And it's quite a few minutes before you can pull the print, take it to the rinse bath, grab the next print, and the bees are destroying my setup and feeding upon it. So then as the day progresses, I can add to it. It really sort of, it's a living drawing, and it sort of becomes a collaboration between myself and the bees. This is mostly bees and not a lot of negative space, blocking out the sun. This too is mostly bees, only visible around the edges, but when they're all together, huddling together, they make these beautiful organic shapes. So those were all living bees. I wanted to keep my project more about life. And if I'm being honest, I really thought more about trying to keep it about life for simplicity's sake and trying to communicate this to museums and curators and gallery directors. I have seen a lot of people using dead insects, and I do like some of those images, but I had not seen anyone really using living honeybees. So I thought it made myself unique. But then there's just so much of the year where I can't do this project. And so finally, I've broken down and I've used some of the dead bees that are donated to me by the master beekeepers in my region. And one of the things that inspired this was I saw a video of bees carrying their dead to the front of the hive. And as a child, I always thought about my grandfather, who was on the beach at just down from Normandy on D-Day. He was a medic. And I thought about this. So during my childhood, I was fascinated by this idea that in a war, your objective is to kill the enemy, but this idea that your job would be to, as a medic, to keep people alive. It just fascinated me. And so I created this series of images of the Red Cross shape, and each image is made up of earth, salt, and dead bees. These are dead bees, earth, and salt sort of piled up into layers. This is two images creating a diptych here, and another example of that. And then this is probably a 36 by 36 inch drawing, and this is dead bees, earth, and construction debris. A lot of it comes from me working on my house and my neighbors working on their houses and donating. I have big collections of construction debris at this point that I use in the images. This is just plastic and bees, which I consider a construction material. The plastic is interesting because the bees like to get under it and forage under it. I don't know why, but they just like to crawl into little spaces, and maybe they feel protected. I'm not sure, but it helps me sort of like pull the plastic away to reveal more of the organic components that I can help attract them. So it sort of fits into my strategy of trying to make my setup last longer throughout the day. Here's a detail. At certain parts of the day, when the sun's in the right position, you can see, because of the direction of the light, you can see their legs, and you can see a little bit more of their anatomy. And here's another detail image. Some images, it's harder to see them. Here, sort of in the center of the image, you see those faint dots. They sort of look like ghosts because the bees are moving and vibrating. And then in the bottom left, there's quite a few. And so I do enjoy, I do like to show this work in the context of a solo exhibition, because sometimes it's not obvious that the bees are showing up. And I think that the viewer, once, it takes them a minute to think about it and discover it. And then I find that people go back to other images to then try to find and see individual bee shapes. This is rebar, plastic, and salt and earth. Those large shapes at the top and on the left, those are a mass. Each one is a mass of honeybees. This one's about 36 by 36, I believe. On this day, I got really lucky, and a swarm of bees just sort of found my setup while I was printing. And so you just really don't know what's going to occur on a day. I almost equate it to going fishing. You get the bait and all the supplies, and you get out on the boat, and you wake up early, and there's no promises of results. And on this day, it was just sort of a few bees showing up, and then all of a sudden it was what looked to be more than 1,000 bees. And I got this image was the best image from the day. This is broken glass, and you see the bees crawling around on the edges of the glass. Some of the images are more photographic, and less graphic, like this one. Some of the images have turned out like this, where the emulsion, something happened with the emulsion and the exposure, and I'm starting to come around to the idea that I rather enjoy it. It almost looks radioactive to me, and I don't know. It just sort of feels like it's speaking to the environment in a way, and I'm trying to make this happen on purpose now. Here's a few more. A little more ghostly. Looks very, very temporary. And my worry about these is I'm not sure about the stability of the print with the chemical reaction aspect of the cyanotype process. So the bees can be quite blurry. This is a very large piece. Each panel there is 38 by 50. Just bees and plastic there. A detailed shot. Another diptych. These are smaller works, which I think operate in a different way. I think the larger works are perhaps more of an abstraction. And I'm finishing on these. These are the most recent images. These are small images of dead bees and salt and earth. And they are beginning to be collaged together. This is how I present them at the moment. Sometimes there is no frame on the larger work. There is no frame. But I build these frames myself because just for cost reasons. Okay, I did it. I did it in under 20. Feel
Yes.
very very satisfying.
Yeah. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And very beautiful images and full of stuff to say and to comment. So I myself, I have lots of questions wondering about, and I will place them on the end of this panel. And so we will do this like the next presenter, then we'll wait also for the questions in the end of the panel. So, but really, really interesting, and lots of questions to do here. Thank you so much, Brent. Thank you so much. Good work. So we will speak soon, okay, Brent? We will speak soon. Don't go away, please. So now I will invite Max to come forward. Max, are you there? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So Max, the reference I have here is that Max is talking from Argentina, right?
That's right.
Both Max and Brent, they have some connection with architecture. I think Max even more. Because he's more involved in the architecture stuff. But we can talk about these connections also in the comments and stuff. The presentation of Max, it's Max is from UADE, from Argentina, a university in Argentina, and the presentation it's called Crab, Tender, Casa, Galpón, Spiders. And it's an exploration of unconventional structures and spatial narratives, focusing on interaction of organic forms into urban environments. So there are similarities with the previous speaker, but for sure, completely different presentation and different images. And take it, Max. Thank you. Thank you for being there.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you for organizing. Thank you, Sarah and Kira. Actually, Shreya Malhotra invited me. I really new here. I don't know anybody but Shreya. So thanks a lot. The title was something Shreya suggested when she invited me. Actually, I tried to comply with the title, but things are a little different. So now you will see. I will show the presentation. Mm.
Yeah, let me just add a bit in the when Max is presenting, preparing the presentation. Shreya was joined in the process of inviting some of the authors that are presenting on both today and tomorrow. So Shreya she's also a really relevant person here, and my thanks go for her also. I think she's managing to be here, but she said she was on a village, but I think she's around. Anyway, Max, go for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. My practice is all related to drawing, though in architecture we draw a lot, not by hand, but with digital means. But I changed that in my practice. My main attraction to drawing was always related to comic and to fantasy. So I even do some comics, which I'm publishing now after many years of keeping them hiding in the hide. And so now I'm doing these kind of things with risography. And I'm not talking about this, but just to tell where the beginning of my drawing interest comes. It's from my childhood. My mother was also kind of artist and psychologist, but we drew a lot all the time, and I kept always doing this. Later on, when I started studying architecture, you change that hand drawing for technical drawing, either by hand, which was in the time I studied, or in computers. So for many years, I kind of stopped drawing like fantasy or drawing um, uh, by hand all the time. I was drawing some croquis, and as an exercise, we always drew in kind of observation. But along this time that I was becoming more technical guy, I always kept like a travel notebook. So that was the place where my hand kept on practicing while I was dedicated more to draw in the computer, to draw on 3D or plans or these kind of things. Sometimes I was sketching, but during the time, mostly when I was studying and working for other offices that I became more a computer guy. But these quaderns, these notebooks always allowed me to keep my hand a little bit trained, not to lose the way of drawing. And this was a drawing that I kept not on the fantasy realm, but more on the observation realm, which is always good for architecture, but also it's a connection with what's happening, with what is diary life, also with nature. But this record of experiences through the hand, for me, are also something that when I look to them, the picture I have of the situation, of the mood, of the things that happened while I was in those moments is more present and more detailed than when I take a picture, for example. So the drawing experience for me is always more profound. And this travel book or travel drawings I've been doing for more than 20 years. And it's something that always keeps me busy and observant. And it goes from nature to urban situations to some family situations. I like very much to draw when I'm moving also, like here on the car, and you can see the splits of the bugs on the glass. And it's also like a life diary when you record, not in pictures, but in drawing the things you are doing. Through some years, when I was already with my own architecture practice, and after many years of dedicating very long time to architecture, I started to recover the hand drawing for other means. I decided not to draw in the computer myself anymore, so I don't draw in the computer. I only draw sketches by hand in my work. We are a big team. There are people which are great that do renders, 3D, and plans, and very technical stuff, very high quality technical stuff. But I became the guy that is more in the beginning of the processes, drawing ideas and doing sketches. But also I wanted to come back to draw for pleasure, to draw the like daily life and observational things, and also some fantasy. And this I started like, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, but during the pandemic, this became like a kind of oasis where I could have a lot of time to dedicate to this and draw every day. And from Argentina, we were looking at the news of the pandemic and seeing that how it was developing in China, then in Europe, then in the States, and we were the latest point where the pandemic arrived. And I was reading a lot of former pandemics and how long this would take, and that we could have a very long lockout restriction to get out. And I thought that I would spend that time doing many things, but mainly drawing. So I drew every day. I drew the normal situations of everyday life. We had a very restricted pandemic measures in Buenos Aires. Like we were almost a year with very, very strict restrictions to go out. I could go out maybe once a week to pick up my daughters, but we were mainly in our houses doing some groceries, and that was it. So I was taking time to draw all kinds of situation in a very tiny space of 50 square meters. And this, at the same time, with the networks, with Facebook and Instagram, all these kind of things, I started to share these drawings every day. And somehow it was like a diary of the pandemic that people felt very much related. So it was a means of communication also. And this way, I started to show it in many places. They asked me to talk, and it was more, I guess, something related to the feeling of being locked and to have a way to go out. But some people wrote things, or some people make encounters online or whatever. I was drawing. This was my way to go through this place. This is the tender of the title, which is a situation that it was there every day. I was thinking that drawing these hardcore things of that you do every day was like an X-ray, like seeing the bones of the things you do every day that in normal times are the background of the things which are more by chance, that you get on the street, that you meet people, that you see things which are fortuitous. And this was not fortuitous. You design every day, you decide everything that's going to happen. And that made me think on the time that I lived in Rotterdam, when I related to the travel notebook, that when you are a foreigner, I lived there for 4 years. In the beginning, you don't know many people and things are not coming to you. So you have to decide every second what to do. You have to design every day and to plan all things, because things are not going to happen. There is not this randomness that you get in normal life. And this was something that was very much related to being a foreigner or to be locked down in pandemic. And so these two kind of drawings and representations and portraits of everyday life were related. And at the same time, they allowed me to keep on working on this relation between life and drawing, life and hand, and space, and how you look at it, observation. And of course, during the meetings with people on this time were always mediated by screens like we are now. And I spent always all these meetings drawing everyone that I met, sometimes painting, sometimes drawing, sometimes work meetings that I was drawing anyway, sometimes just gatherings. And also when we were able to get out, I kept on practicing my drawings, going further than the pandemic. Like this drawing every day kept for a very, very long time till life speed up again a lot. So these were the way to meet with people also, to share it. Of course, there is, for me, very important way to connect these two things, or three things: the fantasy, the observation, the relation with everyday life, but also working. During my work, I do all these kinds of drawings, which then become spaces. Like I prefer very much to think on the space by hand, and only very after to go to technical things. So actually, this is my house, which is a very strange warehouse that during the pandemic, I transformed in this. But these very first drawings were very similar to the things that were happening afterwards. And then this focus on the everyday life, on the things that you can observe all the time, was related to the work I do. A part of my office is dedicated to public space and especially to playgrounds. And playgrounds that we do are always related to some iconic things that could be science, could be music, could be a legend. For example, this is the science park that comes from this relating what we do to how the normal playground could take the form of a branch of science. That was the aim. So all these drawings started to then get to be a neuron, a muscle, DNA, chromosome, and these kind of shapes. And then this is a local legend which is called Jaguarón, which is a monster that comes from the water to eat the lungs of people to breathe outside the water. And this became a 90 meters long playground for kids. And for me to study how the lizard moves, and the monster had a lizard body with a dog head. So all these studies of shapes of movements, also how to add the playful actions inside. I always rather work on them by hand. There's always people in our team that do more 3D technical stuff, but I enjoy a lot. And also for the discussions, it's more fluid always to have a pen and to instead of talking to draw the things you are saying. I always try that people working with me use their hands and don't speak so much, but draw everything they want to show. So this is the Jaguarón, the big monster. All these ideas for me are easier when they come by hand and by observation. And then I always draw the nature which is around me. I wanted to be a scientist also, but I choose architecture. So these are the things I drew by pleasure that then in the end become also part of my work. I have a big magnifier glass where I look to these bugs, which then I draw, and I observe. Each time I'm planning a playground, I first try to draw the animals or the objects or the neurons or whatever it is like they are, and then go through the process of make them more abstract. But this is always by hand. This is the last project I'm showing now that is a playground which goes around the Jaguarón, which is an eco park. And we take animals from this area and transform them in playgrounds, in place for kids and adults. So this is a comadreja, which then gets synthesized into some shape. And spider, this is the park with all the bugs. And this is the crab that I was drawing for myself, and then it became a playground. This is going to be built now. This is the cave of the bats, which is not going to be done. This is the comadreja that is going around with the little kids that we try to take the things with their context. So if the comadreja goes always with the kids hanging around, we put them as a playground with the kids and not alone. And the centipede and the owl, lechuza. It's not the same as owl, but it's similar. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Max. Really interesting overview from very personal drawing into more professional work, built one, some of it. So thank you so much. Again, the questions for what you were showing will come after the next presentation. This will also give time for people to maturate the questions. So hopefully they are preparing some questions already. And also for you to rest a bit, and we'll get back to you. So don't go away. Okay, Max, gracias
Thank you.
for being there. Okay.
Obrigado.
Sí, nada. So we move forward to David Griffin. David from OCAD University, Canada. Let me see if David is here. If not, we go into the discussion. Let's see, because we already talked about the time difference. Maybe for some people there was, no, sorry, I'm really not so good host. David actually he was not able to come. It's the only one from all the presenters. So actually, David, have here a presentation. Let me. It's not a presentation per se. It's not a PowerPoint, but I will do the introduction of David. Give me just 1 second here. And I will get.
And I'm wondering, Pedro, while you're queuing up David's presentation, I'm wondering if this might be an opportunity for people to introduce themselves in the chat. Just because I know some names are very familiar to people, but Max, even as you said, this is kind of your first foray. And I think it'd be helpful if people could put their name, their affiliation, location, website, and even just a short comment on maybe how they approach a drawing practice. If you were to say you're an artist or an architect, or not to put people into boxes necessarily, but I think this may be an opportunity for people to start that conversation about how drawing is part of their practice.
Yeah. There are stuff that I didn't mention, but I think it's more or less everyone is more or less aware of this. These presentations are part of a potential sequence for a publication. So there's a development of these presentations that can be an essay or can be a more extended paper for specific publications. So the idea is that this group of people will dialogue. In fact, certain dimensions around this stuff of drawing nature and how we are nature, and we somehow interact with nature drawing it, but at the same time we then build our own environment, and this conforms our nature also. So this flux and many other, of course, approaches that are regarding drawing that I'm not a specialist. That's why Sarah and Kara they were like the specialists for the drawing front. But so yes, the chat is here for these first introductions also. I'm trying to get some images here from David, but I'm having some problems actually. So let me just see one last attempt, and so, I'm having here some hiccups on this topic. what I will suggest at this moment is that we go for the Q&A for both Max and Brent, and we put the dialogue also in motion regarding these two presentations. I don't know if someone already have some direct question from the audience. I have some questions here that I can put, but if someone else have the interest to, put the questions, please move forward, or via the chat also, or something. You are free to do that. So if not,
I would love to first thank Max and Brent for your excellent presentations to start us. And I think both of you touch on something that I think is vital about the nature of drawing and its ability to make the invisible visible, both through the methods of observation that you employ and the way that you both think and talk about time. I was wondering if maybe both of you could comment on the nature of, these are large questions, but the nature of time within your work, and touching on how time and visibility may be related through the act of drawing.
Max, do you want to go first?
Okay. Well, for me, time, when we talk about observation, time is absolutely there. For me, drawing, when I work, it's easier because I have to draw. And then when I'm in meetings, I always have a notebook with me. That's every moment of my life, because even if we are talking on family about any issue, I like to draw about the things we are talking. Like I like to talk and an argument, but also to give like a support to what I argue with drawing, and so it's also fun. But then to draw anything that you want to observe and go through and understand, it takes a lot of time. But not just the time of drawing it, but also the time of being connected with that. That's even when you are creating something like a comic or an argument or whatever, you need to be on the mood somehow. I don't say inspired, but yes, give the time to your mind to focus on those things. And sometimes when you do something which is like a work, like the work is more scheduled, you are somehow prepared to do an order of tasks that you do regularly. But for me, when I want to draw, it's like it's not just to have the spare time, but also to prepare myself and to have the mood to observe, to be connected with the things I'm drawing. Even if it's a crab that I found on the beach, or if it's a landscape, or if it's a family situation where I draw my daughters or my couple or a friend. So those things, it's not that I can draw any moment I want. So my relation with time is that I need the two times, the time to physically do the drawing, but also the time to connect with what I want to do.
I guess when I think about invisibility, because I'm thinking about labor so much, I sort of, my mind goes right to the invisible labor of the bees, which we don't necessarily see, but we see the byproduct of it. And so one of the things that I'm doing in the work is trying to make their labor visible by recording their labor. And then I remember one of the images that I showed, I think I used the word threshold. There's that threshold of visibility when the bees almost never stop moving. They have to stay in one general area to break that threshold of visibility and be recorded, which is why they're so faint or blurry or ghost-like. And so by highlighting their invisible labor, I hope that it's allegorical to human labor, because I think that that's an interesting connection. And then just thinking about time, like when you have a diptych and it's clearly the same day, but it's moments after, moment to moment. And you can almost, literally see the change occurring. That's how I'm thinking about it.
Excellent, thank you. And I truly appreciate that linkage between Max, the work you were doing during the pandemic, and that concentrated, when you said, it's the X-ray, and all of these otherwise invisible processes are now rendered, physical by your act of drawing them and your act of observing them. And Brent, when you speak of that threshold, how long does it take for something to actually manifest on the page or through a process, and the degree of patience and concentration and time that requires? Just again, that link between the two of your practices was very, very present in that regard. So thank you both.
Thank you.
I have a question for Brent and a comment, I guess, for Max. So with Max, I was really interested in your drawing processes, because I was writing. I started to write a question. I ended up writing this, and I thought this is really interesting. So for you, it seemed like drawing is to observe and to record. Drawing is to imagine and to meet and to connect and to think and to synthesize and to measure, and it and on and on and on. And it seems like drawing is like the center of how you operate in the world. And it's really
Yes.
hard to see. Like it's very much another language.
Yes, it is a language, and I think it's as important as talking for me. And uh, maybe it's a language that you can skip some days. I don't draw actually every day, but I'm always connected with my notebooks, and I think in the end it became a way of thinking and a way of communicating. So for me, it's super important. It adds like a layer uh, to the language, to the spoken or written language, the the drawing. And since I was very little, I read a lot, but I read and have a lot of comic books, but a lot. And this combination of the language and draw and the text, or sometimes only you can make a story only with drawings. You don't need the text. Uh, of course, cinema takes a lot of that, but I'm more interested in the process of these stories or this combined language of drawing and words. Uh, for me, it became something which interacts very well in every scale. So I use it for architecture. I use it for a normal conversation with anyone. I like to have my notebooks and add to the communication with drawings always.
I'm interested to know, will you do any drawings tonight?
I don't know, maybe.
You have to promise to show us if you do.
Okay.
And Brent, a quick question. Have your work is just beautiful. And did you notice a difference when you're working with the live bees from when you started to working with the dead bees? Did that impact your processes or scale, or how did it impact you, or did it impact you at all?
It does. It impacts it impacts my decision making because that first setup in the morning, it dictates everything. So however you begin will dictate the second and the third and the fourth image. You might get 10, 12, 14 images out of a day. But you can't, it's sort of like when like piranhas come to the blood and the water, like you can't hit time out. You can't take things away from them. Like it's the bees, they're there, there's no moving them. And you have to continue on. And so I think it does affect scale. I think the dead bees are a lot easier to work with. And so and also just pictorially, formally speaking, like it's just a more crisp image. And so, I mean, I originally thought that the living honeybee images would be more impressive because it's harder to do, but rarely in art does anyone care how hard you worked. They only really are interested in the image itself.
Thanks.
I don't know.
Pedro,
Sarah's
questions?
like thinking about that.
I am, and I think part of it has to do with this notion. Again, we're talking about manifesting visible and invisible processes. If you're thinking about the labor that goes into what you're generating, I think you're right. If someone is coming to just the image and they're judging it on that superficial, and quite literally that sense of I'm coming into contact with the skin of the drawing right now. I think having this knowledge of the process that informs it, though, does enhance your understanding of the hand that generated the image. I mean, in this case, your fully suited body going into the fray and dealing with a swarm of 1,000 bees. That does enhance my understanding of that image that I'm seeing. So I think that both of you referred to the notion of context. And I think it may go into this larger sense of how we encounter drawings. Like, is it important for us to know the context in which they were made, for us to have a more full understanding of what that image brings to our moment of encounter with it?
And I think that's a great point. I'm starting to think, to try to build that context, that I need a video perhaps, with the work. And then I just now have the idea that it could say what temperature it is in South Carolina. It could say 102 degrees, while I'm in the bee suit. So then they really know how hard I worked fighting the elements.
Yeah. And I would say the same true, Max, knowing that those drawings from the pandemic were made within the context of a lockdown changes how we understand the image.
Yes, for me, it's something special from that moment, but also a continuation because it's related to always this observation point of view of observing what's happening around and trying to make a portrait of what's happening around. So when you're traveling, you are on the road or you are on a plane or you are in a bar or whatever. But when you are locked down, it's also what's happening. It's also what is at your side. But maybe things that you don't look at them usually. So for me was trying to get this same point of view of the things that you say, okay, this is outstanding. I will draw it. And then to find that in the things which are at your side also.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I was like trying to get the images from David, but I'm not managing, so I will try to contact him and get the images for sliding them today. So I had my question is more related with how I look at drawing and the way I also use drawing personally, and the questions I have for this practice that is kind of a layer, like Max was saying, but also very lateral to what happens every day. But at the same time, I'm personally am always fighting to get to that point where I have the peace of mind and the conditions for drawing, and it's kind of always a personal struggle to have these conditions and to to use it somehow. And I was imagining the question. My question was regarding how do you manage to fit drawing in your everyday life. Max, it did made it more or less clear, but Brent, I don't know, how do you fit this in your daily life? Because it's a more rationalized process, right? It's not so hands-on in a certain point. How do you see drawing as a hand gesture action and this kind of, and relate with your work with the cyano2p? Yeah.
Oh, yes. So especially in the beginning and really still it's a factor, just sort of laying things down with my hand, drawing with materials, creating the setup, but trying to do so that doesn't look contrived. Trying to make it look very organic, very much like I didn't purposely drop, something there. So trying to be very organic about it, and then the other thing with time and how I fit it into my life, it's like an all-day thing, so it's very difficult. And then also I need the sun. I need a clear day. A cloudy day is really just not. It's not worth your time. And so whereas when I used to draw and paint, or when I do draw and paint, I like to do that around midnight. I like to draw and paint late. And this is a morning thing, so it's completely opposite. And I think that has something to do with getting married and having a child and needing to reverse my entire rhythm of my life and wake up early in the morning. And it's painful, but you just have to do it.
Yeah. It's very interesting because it's a kind of drawing with your full body and your routine somehow, right? When you are dressing your suit for protecting yourself from the bees, you are already in the process of drawing somehow, and this is kind of interesting thinking about that in this direction. But now a question more for Max. I was really curious, how did you manage to thrive professionally with only drawing? Because it's in the profession, in the architecture field, it's very difficult to be only drawing. And usually we associate to old masters, like the people that are from other generations that, have a team of people working for them in the computer. But to make it a decision as a middle-aged practitioner, how do you manage to do this step, and how do you feel the professionals around you react to that? What do you have to say regarding this decision, because it's a strong decision?
Yes, it was something I thought a lot. There were many things involved. I did all my studies drawing by hand because computers started to be helpful when I was at university. But during my time at university, I drew by hand also the technical drawings. And then immediately as I started to work, the work was already in computer. So it was like a switch from drawing by hand to computer, from where a student to become a professional was the jump, like from one side to the other, the two things at the same time. And I lived in Rotterdam. I was working for other offices and also doing a research group that was called Super Sudaca. It's still existing. And when I come back to Buenos Aires, I started my office drawing myself. So I was doing all the plans and the 3Ds and everything in the computer myself. And it was managing the office, doing the documentation. What was left was the nice part, which was drawing. I was creating, but not so much by hand. So when my office grew a little bit, and I also have a partner, I enjoyed a lot drawing, and I was losing my hand to draw in a fluent way. So I started to dedicate more time to the hand drawing and to the ideas and to the concepts. And at some moment I had to decide if I was responsible for doing the documentation, I couldn't do the other thing. And I had to be the guy also taking the decisions. So I couldn't do 3, 4 roles in the office. So I decided that I was going to focus on those two things, like managing the office on one side and do the drawings by hand and being the someone hand related and designing by hand and not by computer. And this was very, I think was a very nice decision for me because it brought me to a place where I enjoy a lot what I do. And your question is right. Was all the other people around me going to respect this decision, like going to value what I was giving by just drawing by hand and not finishing like a 3D or a render or that? And somehow along the years, this worked. Like all the team that works with me, my partners and everyone appreciate very much the part of the work I do. I know that there are some other things that others do better, like a 3D render, but it's like we combine very well. And everybody is very much waiting for me to do some ideas, drawings and everything. And so somehow it works very well. It's not that I'm the only creative person in the office. Many other people do. I encourage everyone to draw by hand. So I want everyone to be enjoying that and bringing their ideas straight from the brain to the hand, which is much faster and much fluent than with the computer. And then, okay, many people create on the computer or then drawing the computer things we thought first by hand. But I think, yes, I'm lucky that everyone appreciates this way of working.
Yeah, I have also here a question from Antti. Are you also working with some abstract drawings, transferring to architecture? Or, yeah.
Yes, I do, like more conceptual things, maybe in the beginning of the stages, but my drawings are more like this, like space related, object related, and more than abstract, they are a synthesis of things. So, of course, when I draw things which I observe are very literal, related to the reality, to what I see, to my observation. What I can say about that is to draw anything, you need a point of view. You always you take some decisions before drawing, like what are you looking to? It's not something that you look something and you just drawing. You always need to see something first to decide what you're looking at. And in architecture or design is the same. Like even if the drawing looks like you are drawing an object, you are looking at some point of view. The drawing is always an abstraction. I can say something about the relation with the clients, for example. Now, the way of depicting things is very realistic. The renders are very shining with the real materials and everything. But even though they are an abstract drawing, so when people see things which are built, even if you gave them a drawing which is very realistic, somehow they imagine something different. And in that way, I always prefer to have abstract drawings, like hand drawings or the drawings that depict what's going to happen, not to be so realistic, because they are always an abstraction anyway.
Yes, true. So I also will transfer a bit the same question, and I think will be the last one. I don't know if anyone else wants to intervene. If they want, please do. But I will transfer the same question a bit to Brent, in a sense, and getting a bit this discourse from Max. In a way that because Max places the drawing in the process of thinking and relation with built environment and clients also. In your case, Brent, it's a bit different, right? It's a much more rational and much more. It's a different kind of exploration, and you do not have clients in the sense that you are working as an artist purely, right? Can you elaborate on that? Thank you.
Just the idea of making art for yourself versus the client is what you want me to comment on?
Yeah, and how do you position your work in this process? Because I don't know if you you assume yourself as an artist and you work as an artist professionally, or this is the explanation. Yeah.
Yes, within my own practice, I have to acknowledge the viewer, but I see myself as the first viewer. And so I feel like, if I'm not happy with it, that's the end. That's the end of it. Like I have to. It has to be a reflection of my intentions. And so I do see it as art. I do. But on the other side, I got to this point in my life because I love drawing. I love drawing by hand, and I get to do that with my students. And then since I've been at the University of South Carolina, I've been fortunate enough to teach a few illustration classes, and we get to work with clients. So I feel like I have all of these. I get to. So I have to put on a different hat sometimes, but I think that's what keeps it interesting. I also think that going to art school and enjoying the process of drawing by hand helps me appreciate what Max does, because it's a practice, it's a muscle. The creativity, even just creativity, it's just a muscle to be flexed. And this is why it drives me crazy when students, their first move is to go to Pinterest, before they've even allowed themselves to have an original thought. And I always say, if you're going to do that research, you should first take a moment to yourself and have some time in your own sketchbook first before you go and look at other people's ideas.
Yeah.
And the other thing to sort of comment on what Max was saying, just the one final thought is, I think with AI now it's becoming more slick and it's becoming more realistic, and people are using AI to achieve the slick, more realistic style faster. But I think that's why what Max does should be even more valued, that the beauty is really in the imperfections of it and the hand-drawn quality of it.
Yeah, and the personal process, right? It's something that's personal in the end. It's not, if you don't do the process with the pen and the paper, no one will do it for you.
And
I like to say something about Brent's work also, because I like it very much, the approach. And my couple is a photographer, and we do a lot of, many times we do cyanotype ourselves, and but more related to, I know it's a creation of image which you can relate a lot to drawing, but also to photography. And, and, and somehow I started to do that because she's a photographer and she works with those chemicals and things. And we have a lot of fun. And all the things you were saying about the time and how to prepare and how to measure that time that's creating something that you have sometimes not control, I like a lot. And I like that a lot in your work.
Thank you. Thank you. I've always loved drawings that challenge the definition of what a drawing is. And so I'm trying to embrace, the blurred line between drawing and photography and printmaking. So
Yeah.
I thank you for saying.
Yeah, clearly, and you are on the spot, actually. It's very nice to have your contribution, and you are also, Max. I don't know if someone else has some more comments. We are extracting all the energy from these two first presenters, but unfortunately, David was not able to come. We had an email problem, and I do not have the images access right now. Hopefully, we'll have during this session today. But anyway, we will do a short break now, I think. I don't know if you agree, Sarah and Kiera.
yeah, and I just want to say too, I think the stage is perfectly set for the next series of talks in the second panel, as we go into this idea of further the body as this intermediating drawing force in the built environment and the natural environment. And I'm so happy there are so many architects in the house as well to be able to speak to that transition and that movement between the built and the natural as experienced through the drawing body. So
yeah, this is feeling like a very well organized, although this David is missing, but it's very well organized and it's a sequence. Yeah, it's like, but thank you all for being there. And so we'll have 20 minutes now. I don't know, Sarah, you want, or Kerry, you want to say something?
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, go ahead. I agree with what Sarah was saying. Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
yeah, 20 minutes.
Yeah, so 20 minutes in your time from now, and we'll meet
I think
again.
that's universal. Yes.
Yes, yeah, I think I'm trying to, yeah. So have a tea, and we see in 20 minutes, okay?
Yeah, come back with
Okay.
some kind of drawing material that you can use for the exercise that we're doing at the conclusion.
Some drawing material, it's requested,
Anyhow,
okay?
doesn't matter.
Anything.
Blank page,
Okay.
pencil. Yes,
Okay.
good.
I have it here.
Okay, I said goodbye now because I'm traveling tonight. And so maybe today I don't know how often I could see the rest of the seminar, but thanks a lot, and I'll try to maybe from the car be connected.
Okay, we
Thanks,
keep in
Max.
touch. Thank you so much for your presentation, Max. Good travel.
So we'll
Thanks.
see people 20 after the hour. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Resume. And thank you for being there for the second part of this first day, the second panel. I should had reminded the people that were on the audience that about the speakers in the second panel. So, but they are here. I've placed them on the chat. I will replace or place again. This So this second panel, as I mentioned earlier, let me just arrange the screens here, will be precisely about the human nature. So it's not nature, it's human nature. So it's the relation of the body, the human, with nature. And well, as I said, it's a way to organize the participants. It doesn't mean specifically that they are exactly to be in this order. It was a selected order. Anyway, the participants will be the first two will be from South America. Melissa Miranda. She will be talking from Chile. Will be the first one. Then Paulo Itu from Brazil. And then closing this panel will be Kiera and Sarah also talking. So I don't know if both of you, my co-hosts, Sarah and Kiera, want to say something on the beginning of this second panel. You are okay? I don't know if is Sarah around already. Yeah, she's here. Yeah,
I am. Yes.
Yes.
so I don't know, maybe we will start, right? If Melissa, she's around, let me see.
I'm
You
gonna
are mute?
share.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
perfectly.
I'm gonna share.
Yeah, I will just share that Melissa she's from Catholic University from Chile, and the title it's here, and she will explain. I think it's the best.
Yeah.
So
Thank
take it on,
you.
Melissa. Welcome.
Well, what I'm presenting today is how to say this is a sort of a process, a mental process where I've used drawing to try to explain what is not possible to explain in words because it belongs to epistemic differences, epistemic worlds from, we could say, us, this Occidental worldview, perspectives, philosophies, and how they contrast and separate from indigenous worldviews and thinking. So this has been a process of 10 years. I did my undergrad in architecture. I started working with Gaspana, an indigenous community in the north of Chile. There is a kind of connection with the Aymara world, especially on the worldviews. So yeah, so that was the beginning. Okay, so my undergrad, but then I completed an MPhil at Edinburgh University, and then my PhD, all in the same line of thought. But I was always unsure if I was really getting an understanding, their understanding of the landscape, basically. So the series of drawings I'm going to present are part of that process, and how they move from a very traditional approach from architectural drawings and landscape drawings to get closer to Silvia Rivera Cusicanqui's work, from where I take these terms in Aymara, the idea of amuya as a way of understanding or knowing through the body, and why there isn't a word for landscape in Aymara, because we are the landscape, we are with the landscape, and there is no division between the body and the landscape. And also because there is no like sort of a brain activity, the understanding occurs in the body. So it goes down, not stays in the mind. That is a very like a summary of what I'm going to show you, but the drawing processes are well here. I think that in what I'm teaching now is that through drawing, through composing images, through creativity, we can understand different epistemic worldviews and also as an ecological practice. So these were my first drawings when I went to Gaspana. Well, this is the second visit, but as you can see below, I have plans for what it was a traditional landscape project. But when I was there, I always got the sense that I was not understanding their approach to landscape. This is a canal cleaning ceremony where I was asked not to take photos, so drawing was the only recording kind of tool I had for field work. Not recordings in any way, so only my drawings and my notes. And as an architect, I was making drawings. Other anthropologists were taking field notes, but I was making my own drawings. So it was, at the beginning, it was all conventional in a way. The landscape was outside, the activities were outside, and it was much linked to colonization and controlled. It was disembodied, extractive, external. And that was also the evaluation I had, because I was trying to be more respectful with the people, what they asked me to do here. But then my teachers were not happy with my work. It was not enough architectural. It was not enough interventions. So I was not happy with what I was doing, and I felt that I was not understanding many of the things that were happening, such as this. This is I'm forgetting some words because I moved from Spanish to English and then I'm back to Spanish. So I have a kind of a lagoons in language, but as a ceremony that takes place in the ravine, and they move through different stages. So I was taking photos and trying to understand what it is, the movement in the landscape. So then in my second attempt, I call it, in my MPhil, I looked at the landscape through movement, and through movement into different stages. So movement in the past, the Inca roads, and looking at lines as the main tools here to follow, not to fix, to bring back the memory, to walk through these lines, and to understand how this movement creates a certain kind of understanding of the landscape, as they were constantly telling me about traditional roads, and in contrast to the Inca roads. So it was a 2-year conversation about roads and lines and walking through them. But still, when I finished this, I was not happy again with my representing a landscape that doesn't belong to me. So this is my third attempt on my PhD. What I did was to, of course, I do many things, and I'm not showing you this, only the drawing process that goes behind. But we were exploring the landscape as like an embodied practice, like the narratives they were telling me about the territory. I was also working with an artist who redraws rock art, so we were also working with pigments, visiting sites, walking through this open spaces, naming them, pointing them, trying to get this sort of spatial arrangement. And that's when I start to get more involved with this, call it in a way theory, but the modern philosophies who write about space, and to explain this contrast between what we see and how they practice the landscape. And for instance, this is an attempt to show the epistemic views that this rock art artist uses, how she first traces the drawings from the rock, from the panels, then she asks the elders, then she comes back and take pigments from the ravine, and then she retells the story, but also practices specific rites in place. So it's a continuous cycle. And so in my second year of the PhD, I got the feelings that I was getting closer, but it was through this through reading philosophers, but also practicing and sketching the processes in the landscape of us walking through. And this is also a record of what I'm saying, like how we move through one area to another one, crossing ravines, listening to stories, and also crossing the different layers that these landscapes have, because it's not just about the environment, not only ecology, but it's also about economy of the country, because these are mining areas. So a century ago, it was a certain kind of mining activity that was very it was nearby. It was not slavery, because it was not, but the human conditions were very low. So those stories start to get as a part of a palimpsest in the landscape, and this is what I take the idea of the newscape of Mita rather, I don't know how to say it, but she explains that the landscape is an epistemic field where you merge all these stories, not only the stories about what is sacred or this idea that we normally have of indigenous people, but this mixture of experiences of war, of crisis, of I don't know, all this. So I started to map all these ideas and places, but also deeply listening to the stories that they were telling me. When they mention the names of the hills and their connection to the rivers. So when I was doing the revision of the recordings on site, I noticed that there was a sort of repetition of the connection between the water and the highlands, the peaks and the beginning of the water sprouts. And I was able to link that to Silvia Rivera-Pusikanki's work, the idea of the Cheche world, that in the contrasting ideas create a third space. And also it brings back the idea of opposite and complementary spaces. I'm not gonna dive into what every space means, but there is complementarity between opposite spaces where you crop, spaces where you get the water from in the high hills. So I reach, and this is the last one. I don't know if I've taken too long, but when she speaks about this idea of understanding through the lungs, through the liver, through the parts of your body that are not placed in the mind, it means that we are part of one coexisting kind of a relational presence. And that's what I was doing with this. Of course, you have a full chapter of this processing in words, but drawing helped me to understand what they were telling me, and also what I was reading in Sylvia's work. Because I'm not Aymaran, I'm not indigenous, but in a way I have in myself this Cheche condition that we are a bit off, but not completely. We are mestizos, we're mixed, but we live in this contradiction. But she explains, and well, if you're interested in this topic, you can read her books, but she explains that when we inhabit this contradiction creatively, we enter the third space that is not living just the clash between the two parts of who we are, but the chuima in Aymaran, but we have this understanding in connection with the nature. And this is how I ended my cycle, I think, of not being happy with my work, and how I was understanding landscape as this particular area in the north. Yeah, that's my presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Melissa. It's lots of information to, dive into, and for us to question you in some moments. Okay, so there's a slight change here because Paulo is not still here, but I already managed to call him by phone, and he's going to enter in 15 minutes. So I think it's, if possible, we change here Chiara with Paulo. So Chiara goes first, and then when Paulo arrives, he goes after Chiara. If that's possible, Chiara, for you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. So it's always this. He was not aware of the time. Gladly on the emails he left this phone number, and I called him. So managed to catch him, and he's going to join us after your presentation, Chiara.
No worries.
So I remember again, in the end of this process, we'll have a conversation. I don't know, maybe the Q&A, we can do it before your session, Sarah. I don't know. Does it make sense to make it before or after your session, the Q&A of this?
I think Q&A should come between. I mean, because what I
Exactly. That was
Yeah.
what I was
we can
thinking.
do it at the very end. Yeah.
Okay, exactly. So we will do the Q&A now, Chiara, then Paulo, then the Q&A, okay?
Great.
And then Sarah with the exercise. Okay. So Chiara, it's yours.
Thanks. Okay. What can you guys see? Hold on. You can see, hold on, let me just put it up. Okay, we're all good? Yeah? Hello?
Yes.
Oh,
it's good.
sorry.
Yeah, that's great. Yes.
I can't see anyone. It's like it's gone dark. Okay.
I was doing my fingers and stuff, but yeah.
Okay, so this is a presentation based on my current PhD, hopefully finish this year. And it explores how drawing can map and reveal the spatialized feelings of everyday lived experiences, particularly external environments, as theorized in new phenomenology. So the drawings here are not necessarily artworks, but they are pieces of research. And the first sort of part of this is sort of theory and practice-led research. And then I'll show you some of the artworks that resulted from this research in the end. Okay, here we go. So leading up to my PhD research in 2016, I led a local drawing group of local residents to draw in situ, and we have a lot of rich heritage around us, and so we drew like the old castle and this old mill here. This is my muck from a different project I won't go into today, and like famine ruins and things like this. And the group are not artists, they are just local residents and various different backgrounds, and they would draw by sight. And one day I asked them to draw without using their sight, to sort of gaze downwards and to listen. And I just had no idea what was going to happen. I just thought, let's see what would happen. And when they did, what was fascinating to me was that not only had we drawn the same thing, a dripping sound, but we had drawn it in the same way. we had all drawn it in this particular curved way. And this moment really stirred a question in me, which was, what influences the act of drawing in situ as drawing comes into being? So I started to explore this question in this particular site here, and I didn't know what I was attempting to draw or capture. So I stood in this little nook here, and I tried to attune myself to environment somehow. And I realized as I did this, individual sounds became really amplified, and my body became kind of like a sounding board for particular noises. Like there's sounds of midges and flies and people walking by, and the river and the stream. And in the theory of atmosphere, sounds are described as being spatially poured out. They refer to quasi-things by Tony Cofero, or half entities by Schmitz. So quasi-things are elusive, they lack borders, they're really intrusive though, and they're even more intrusive than physical things. And as Cofero writes, quasi-things coexist with their qualities as they appear. So we experience them as they exist, not before and not afterwards. So these, oh, hold on, sorry. This is not the right thing. I picked the wrong thing. I apologize. 1 second.
No problem.
Hopefully this is it now.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just not okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So quasi things can be like twilight or sounds or seasons, or they are how atmospheres of any day, anywhere really, they create the atmosphere through their expressive qualities. So in that particular space here, I drew for 3 months, and there was a storm one day. And in the theory of atmospheres, wind is experienced as a felt bodily impression, so rather than a meteorological data. So in Ireland, it rains a lot, and it's actually quite windy, and we have many phrases. So we might say for the rain, it's a soft day, or it's fierce wet, or it's lashing, or the wind, we might say the wind would go through you, it would cut you in two, it's a savage wind. So you can see these descriptions are really describing the experience of being rather than data. So this particular storm, I stood in this nook again, and I was holding a pencil and a notebook, and I gazed my eyes downwards, and I wasn't focusing on anything in particular, and I sensed a feeling of heaviness, a contraction of my body, but also this sense of exhilaration and expansion. And I observed the storm's presence, and it was really palpable, and it was a sensory experience rather than the wind's effect on the trees or the clouds or the plants. So this was the resulting drawing of this this particular storm. And as I stood there, the storm's energetic form impressed upon my body as the pencil began to drift across the page, hesitantly at first, and I was trying to follow a line's unknown path yet to be revealed. As the gusts of air around surrounded me, my trace on the drawing surface accelerated until the wind died down and I stopped drawing. The drawing is, according to Nicolaides, moving emotive energy of gesture, not drawn as trees bending or clothes moving, but it is a motive gestural force that was invisible until felt and visualized in these swirling lines. So wind is a quasi thing, as I said, and it exists, as with all quasi things, as absolute presence. It has no edges, no form, but its force as an entity can only be grasped through sensing it in the body. This is another research site. It's a dilapidated handball alley. It's a structure for a traditional Irish handball alley. And I began this project in 2021, so it was still COVID times, and it was middle of winter and it was freezing. And I began the same process before, but within this structure, my gaze was on focus. I quieted my senses, and I attempted to probe the world beyond the physical body, but trying to pathically listen, to pick something up in the air, Pathic is, in this case, is not pathetic. It does not mean that. In this context, Grafero refers to pathic as the effective involvement that the perceiver feels unable to critically react to or mitigate the intrusiveness of. So as I stood there, I also wrote a bit of a journal, and I said, I do not look what I'm trying to record. I hear birds. I'm unsure of what type of birds, but there's more than one sound. I think they are crows. I began to trace the repetitive sounds in the paper, tracing the rhythm until the movement of my hand synchronizes with the sound of the birds. I stop. As my hand trailed the drawing surface, tracing the sounds of birds, my hand rose and fell, recalling the gestural movements of the mill. Yet there was a distinct difference in how my hand moved. My body and hand felt weaker in its movements as it pushed the pencil upwards and then slowly, feebly downwards, recording the rise and fall, tracing the bird's pitches. I drew repetitive and measured lines as if I were anticipating what Joe Graham suggests is a form of return. The gestural lines echoed each other, yet retained their distinctiveness. In this act of drawing, my body is merely not, to quote Merleau-Ponty, a chunk of space or a bundle of functions, but it is an intertwining of perception and movement, a fusion of sensory experience and the physical act. My hand here is a precise recorder of my bodily movements because, as according to Deborah Hardy, drawing is phenomenology. The gestural lines are inseparable from the effective responses of my gestural hand and the echo of my body. Upon reflection of these and other drawing experiences of various sites, I realized that these recordings of quasi-things, the circular and rhythmic tracings of the wind or the short repetitive lines of bird sounds, did not entirely answer my question. What influences the act of drawing in situ as drawing comes into being? I sought an embodied listening within the drawing process that was more deeply sensed than what was recorded. There was a sense that a feeling was untraced, that the spatialized feelings of this atmosphere remained untraced. Effective spatial maps. So, human photographer Waifu Toon observes that the human body are mobile animals. So we have measures, directions, locations, and distance, with front and back as our primary positions and right and left as secondary. So within this context, the material body implies a single locational space rather than the pre-dimensional space of the felt body. So the felt body is also devoid of surfaces. It also lacks geometrical boundaries. It perceives what belongs to someone without relying on their 5 senses or perceptual body schema. So my aim was not to map locational space with static positions and distances, but to record through the act of drawing the spatialized feelings of atmospheric spaces as sensed in my felt body. I could not distance myself from my embodied experience because it represents something I am and not something I merely possess. The experience of drawing in situ, or as I refer to it now as drawing in space, transcends the limitations of traditional geometry, which is blind to the spatialized feelings involved. So to receive these spatialized feelings means I know the world pathically through my felt body. Therefore, when I draw in space, I'm immersed in a specific atmosphere with expressive characteristics that attune me profoundly. So my aim is not to record a thing or a quasi-thing, but something felt, not thought. Drawing in space challenges the idea of drawing as solely expressive or mimetic and repositions drawing as a relational attunement to atmospheres, to quasi-things, to the felt body, and in turn to the spatialized feelings of wherever one is. These maps record the pathic dimensions of experience. It becomes possible for the act of drawing to phenomenologically know the world by grasping the world through our felt pathic experience. It is not how a space feels to me, but how it feels through me. So these are examples of some felt maps that I have done over the years. So this is the one in New York City, and these are just like tiny little A5 notes, visual notes that are felt maps. And it's only when you compare different drawings and different sites can you see how the response or how these atmospheres affected me. This is in Australia, in a rural township of Australia that I know quite well. Actually, I lived there for 10 years. And this is a recent one in Altona in Hamburg. So in May, I'll just talk about this quickly as an example of how I got to draw these felt maps. So I was in a particular church, actually, that's not far from this harbour, and beautiful gardens there as well. And I was sitting with my back against this church wall, some pencil in my hand and a notebook on my knees, and I closed my eyes and I turned inwards, attuning myself pathically to the subtle rhythms of my body. My hand began to move again, hesitantly at first. I was listening, and the act of drawing became immersive, slowly guiding me into a meditative state. The lines, to take a quote from my journal, the line searches for something, an unnamed line, a line that can't be identified in the moment, unlike the line for the sound of a bee or the sound of water or the movement of trees, grass, plants as the wind blows through it. It is a stirring that traces outwards onto the drawing surface. So my pencil traced unknown lines, tentatively probing the drawing surface, searching for a bodily impulse. Gradually, my hand moved faster, crossing the surface with increased weight. A deep heaviness bore upon my shoulders, shortening my breath. Following a bodily impulse, the felt external, my gestural movements came to abrupt halt. Taking a deep breath, I opened my eyes. The world seemed different somehow, yet the felt sense lingered. A sense of heaviness remained. This act of drawing constitutes what Hermann Schmitz calls a subjective fact, a fact for the subject, even without identification. So it's a fact, it's for someone that's true before one can identify oneself. It is this fact because any attempt by any other person to draw the marks would lack the effect of involvement, unless, of course, they were there. Within this perspective, my felt body acts as a sounding board to the spatialized feelings of that specific atmosphere. This work here is also a development of this, and I'll tell you about that in a sec. So this is not a subjective account in the psychological sense, but rather what Griffin describes as a first-person pathic account, an experience that emerges pre-reflectively and without objectification, as a felt involvement before one identifies oneself. So it becomes possible to state that in this drawing of Altona, the thinness of the line embodies the thickness of the world. So these effective spatial maps trace the movement of atmosphere as it stirs my felt bodily aisles. It transcends the physical body and psychological mind. What I'm proposing is not a map of space, but a map of how space feels. These are not cartographies of place, but of spatialized feelings of atmospheres. In this context, drawing in space repositions drawing as an effective counter for cartography, a way of documenting, sensing, and registering the invisible but forceful presence of spatialized feelings of atmospheres. I contend that these maps record the pathic experience and allow for one to discover oneself within the spatialized feelings of atmospheres. So I don't know how I am in time. I think of like a couple of minutes. So this work, so these are like what I call felt maps or spatialized, effective spatialized maps. And there would be
you have 5 minutes still.
Okay, great. That's great. So I talk really fast. So these are drawings I would have drawn in situ, and then I have developed them into a work of art. This is a print which became part of a bigger exhibition on Altona with drawing decentered in Frieze Gallery in Hamburg just a couple of months ago. This is a video that I have that I developed, and all of this developed through this work here. Because when I made this work, when I drew this, I realized how this place felt, and so then from there I could develop an exhibition. And how this is different, I'll show you another one. Is sorry, this is the caves of Kesh, and this is another felt map that I did in these caves. And this is the resulted drawing that I developed from that drawing. Also became an exhibition. The handball alley at the start, I did a felt map that was looked a bit like this, and this developed into a experimental animation. I can show you a little bit if we can. This is a large scale drawing that also developed. So you can see how the drawings are very, I mean, they're gestural drawings, but the work is different, or the sense and the feeling of each exhibition is very different. And it's due to this process that I go through. This is part of this same, animation. And okay, so what I can do, we have a couple of minutes, great. Okay, let's see. I think I'll show this one. Sorry for a sec. I'm going to show you just a few minutes of this so you can see. So I just want to show you all of it. So this is one I did in Australia. Last year's in the drawing room. No, sorry, where was it? It was in Draw Space in Sydney. So this is just a little, I'll show you a couple of minutes or a minute. Interface screen, there we go. Okay.
In our side, it doesn't have sound. I don't know if it's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it doesn't work without sound. Okay, that's okay. Why doesn't it have sound? Why not? There is always this issue, isn't there, with
Yeah, I think it's
Share with sound. We share, and before you
exactly.
press and share, you have to add the sound. Also share the sound.
Yeah, you have an option when you share.
Ah, okay. Let me see if I can do that really quickly. Okay. Okay. So where is that? So share sound. Excellent. Whoever said that is a genius. Thank you very much. I'll show you 2 seconds. Oh, why is it asking me this now? Okay. Let me see. Can you hear this?
No.
No.
Yeah, I cannot, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll leave it there. You can see it on my websites. Oh, actually, I don't think I have it up yet. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah, you can share on the link on the
Yeah,
on
I have to
the
put them up
chat.
somewhere.
Yeah, you have already some comments there for you. So yeah, that's it. You have concluded? Yeah?
Yes,
Yes.
the
Okay.
end.
So thank you so much, Kiera. Yeah, there are some evolutions from what you presented in November on the conference of transatlantic dialogues. It was mainly Brazilian presenters there, some Portuguese, but mostly Brazilian, and you both, Kiera and Sarah, they were also there among other English speakers. And now I think Paulo just got in, and maybe we join him to the panel. And Paulo, are you there? You just joined on the perfect moment. If you are available, move forward. Paulo, it's another presenter that came from Sharia. So Sharia, I worked already with her on previous publications, and she helped a lot with this bridge to other authors that I didn't know or don't know as Paulo. Paulo, I just talked to you by phone. I hope you are okay. The English, it's okay for you?
Yes. It's kind
Okay.
my English is a little bit macaronic. You know what I mean?
Yes, perfect.
But,
It's yeah, it worked.
but maybe you can help me
Yeah, if there are
a
some
little bit.
doubts, I help. Eu ajudo.
Okay.
Tranquilo.
Okay, sorry about the delay. I did a mistake with the time, but here I am. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to participate, and thank you to Sharia. It's very cool to join you, Pedro, and your project.
Great, thank you for that. So you I can do a short presentation. Paulo, the topic that Shreya gave to the presentation of Paulo was lines in motion, drawing, gesture, and urban reflections. I don't know if it's more or less this direction, but Paulo, take it away. Do your presentation. Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna show the images, or
Yes, you can show your images, your work. Yeah. Or do you have there, or do you want me to share?
no, actually I'm not home, so I'm a friend home.
Ok.
So I don't have it here.
Ok, então vamos ver aqui. É porque
Okay.
eu posso usar. Can I use your website?
Yes, of course. But may I can talk more generally, right?
Yes, of course. It's the purpose. Yes. The context, let me give you a little bit of context. The other speakers, some are authors, other are researchers on the drawing, and they do different approaches on drawing. So they use drawing to search different dimensions of the relation of themselves and their body with the drawing, but also others draw because they need for architectural purposes or exploration of the landscape. So there are different approaches to drawing. In your case, you will explain yours. That's the thing.
Okay. Well, I will introduce myself shortly.
Okay.
I used to work like street artist, and I have a huge influence from comics that I used to do when I was a teenager. So I have this influence. I like to think I can draw anything. I mean, when you work with comics, you should maybe you can have how can I say repertório, you know, in English.
It's a repertoire,
Yeah, because you have to draw scenes to tell a history, right? So in that time you didn't have internet, so maybe you use some references. But I as maybe a lazy artist, I wasn't too much in researching references. So I was trying to develop the image, the characters, the scenario with kind of my imagination and trying to understand the human body, the positions, with practicing. So I never wasn't too much in copying other artists, as I really like to observe the things the way they are, like observation drawing.
Okay.
So
I will share the Instagram, because the website I was having some difficulties. So I will share your Instagram if possible. Maybe you can comment some of the posts of the Instagram. And
yeah, you can show randomly.
Yeah, and you talk. And if you see
want.
something that makes sense for you, please comment.
Well,
this presentation is for about 15 minutes now, something like this.
Okay.
10, 15 minutes.
So you can see with this image, I'm not a painter, but a drawer, as the line is the main tool in my production. So someone told this is I do colored drawings, you know, not as like, I don't think the image like with painted areas, you know, but with the lines that will create these areas, and then I put some color. So this is my formation, and I think it works nice in the walls in the street, because you can do it, I guess, fastly. You know, sometimes we don't have authorization, so a lot of times you need to draw a little bit fast. In this sense, as I told Shreya, I really like to draw in paper with how can I say this pen, caneta esferográfica, you know?
Yeah, it's pen, ballpoint pen. It's
exactly, because in the most simple kind of pen, like, because to me I can draw it faster or slower if I want, but I can draw it really fast. And to me, it's kind of funny drawing fast. It's like I used to think like as I was dancing, you know. So I have some rhythm, and I start drawing this kind of fast when I was in university, and we work a lot with observation draw. So there was this exercise with the model that changed the position really fastly. So in this way, I kind of create more than a structured based draw. I created more with the rhythm and velocity of the line as I observe the person or the object I'm drawing, you know. So it's interesting to draw a little bit fast to have this rhythm, you know. So I really used to look to the paper and to the object, really fastly, so I can do this think fastly how the line I'm watching is going, how it's turning, how is the angle, and doing this with rhythm, it really works to me, you know, even if the draw is not perfect, because it's kind of the proportions maybe are not in the most perfect way, but I think this gives to the draw some, how can I say, some power, you know, with expression. And this is and give me like the pleasure of drawing. This is very interesting, because I think when you draw something and you are very sad, or you are thinking a lot of problems, you can see this in the draw. The draw is kind of, how can I say, murcho, you know, like a flat tire. You know? So this is very important in my process. And when I try to do something more regular, a lot of times I think there is less expressivity as compared to with fast drawing. You know, another thing I did a lot is, I don't know the name in English. In Portuguese we call desenho cego, maybe blind drawing.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, blind.
So you don't look at the paper, and I think this is very expressive. And I was thinking that this is, I guess some drawers really use it. Like, it's just, I suspect like Cássio Loredano is one guy that really do that. You know this guy? He used to draw to Le Monde Diplomatique.
You can put on the chat the references then
Yeah,
I think it's the best. Yeah.
let me try.
The previous presenter from your presentation, she had she have much a big relation with this kind of drawing.
Okay.
Very. It's not that it's a blind drawing. Maybe she then can develop a little bit more, of course. But yeah, Chiara, she's. It's very emotional. The drawing, you know, it's a drawing that it's not. It's she's a vehicle for the emotion that's registered through drawing, and she explains that very deeply, and she's working a PhD on that. So it's there are you will yeah, you should be then in contact, but you can write on the chat also. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying, but I'm not. Actually, there was a long time I didn't use a Zoom application.
No worries. No worries.
I don't know if it's working.
I don't know.
Anyway,
yeah, for like a conclusion of your approach to drawing, you use it every day, and how is your?
Well, actually, I'm using the ballpoint pen more to write nowadays, because it's a personal issue or a personal desire to communicate beyond além, como seria?
Beyond, yeah.
Beyond the street art itself, because as you can see, I like to tell a history, you know, but I was thinking I need to tell more things, so that's why I start writing, but I keep drawing in some moments, and I think it's like riding a bicycle. But anyway, it's actually the same. You never forget how to ride a bicycle, but if you come back, you don't ride the same. You know, you need to practice anymore. So as I was talking about the blind drawing, and it's very interesting when I paint like in a leather, you know, for example, because you are very close to the wall and you can't really see what are you doing, you know, when you are painting a huge image. So I think this makes it easier to me. And I used to say this is interesting because it's like to have a child when you draw a character in a letter, because you only know his face when it's born, you know. So you need to get down in the letters and look, take a distance, and then you can look and say, wow, normally it's not exactly what I was thinking. And because I used to draw a lot without sketching, because I think it's more fun. But of course, sometimes you don't have you have sometimes a catastrophic result. But I think this is the price anyway. So it's, as I told you, drawing to me is much with having fun, even if I do it professionally. So maybe I make drawing a layout and I put some music to kind of dance with the pen and this kind of stuff, you know.
Okay. Okay, Paulo, I think your contribution, it's very, very relevant, because we are now going to a moment of debate, and then we are going to do a small exercise promoted by Sarah, and so it will be then the conclusion of this session. So we are pointing to conclude near like 40 minutes from now. So if you can stay by there, please stay. And now we will have the questions and answers. So people will make some questions, and to you and to the other two persons that were presenting before you. Basically, Melissa from Chile, and Chiara from Ireland. And so you will be, it's your panel, so you'll be in between them, and some questions will be for you, the three. So if someone wants to take a step forward and make one question, or have already some idea, please do.
Can I ask a question to Melissa?
Yes, Chiara, sure. Sure.
I found your research really fascinating, for lots of reasons, and just in terms of discussing Indigenous experience, or how they hold and understand land, and or not understand landscape as in the Western idea of landscape, which is quite romanticized. And it reminded me of, I lived in Australia for 10 years, so it really reminded me of Indigenous practices there, and how story and language and land are all tied and are the same as, and they're embodied. But I would also say that traditional Irish people would also be where the land and story are embodied, and it's in our lands, it's in our language. And I think this is very common in Indigenous practices. And I'm just wondering, two questions. One, are you looking at other Indigenous peoples to continue your research? Question one. Question two, you mentioned, which I found this phrase, I don't know if it was yours or someone else's, but I found it really interesting. You said drawing holds conflict, not harmony. And I'd really like you to expand on that a bit. Thanks.
Okay.
I think I will start with the last one because I think it's the hardest. But when we talk about Indigenous peoples and their understanding of territory, lands, it's a quite a political issue, and there is no division between what is romantic, ecological, and conflict, and that's what the newscape rather she proposes that. And so in every drawing there is lines of power, divisions, political boundaries. Even the definition of being Indigenous comes from a policy that tells them what to do, what they should, I don't know, believe, behave, what practices, kind of also being lived in poverty, because since you're Indigenous, the state cannot invest in water, cannot invest in power sources. So it's always a geopolitical discussion, and you cannot interact with them without noticing that and being part of it. And in every drawing, there is a story of those conflicts. And yes, I've been working with the same community that's not even working with 10 of the same group. It's just one. And now I begin to work with a new community that the state has identified. So yeah, I'm working on the sea now. And you know that there is a word for land as a territory, and there's the same for the sea. So we say, well, not we, but them, they talk about maritorio, like sea territory is a mixture. And how now I'm getting obsessed with understanding the landscape in the water. So thinking of what happens at the bottom of the sea. And the coastal areas. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now, beginning new research on that.
This replies to both questions, or yeah. Okay, I have Melissa. I need to put you in contact with someone from Brazil that is doing research precisely from this aspect of the sea landscapes and the relation of the sea with the the coastal line, and she's doing a really interesting job around like fishermen cultures by the sea, these kind of things. And for about 2 years, actually, they were part of this conference where I've met Kiera and Sarah in previous November. So yes, I need to put you in contact with her also. Precisely. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. So yeah. I don't know if someone else has some. Yeah.
A question, and I'm glad that Paulo was able to join. I don't know if he is in earshot, but Paulo, welcome. And Kira and Melissa, your ways of talking about drawing as being in the world through the body, through the senses. I know that pervades through a number of people's practices that are in the room right now. And Melissa, the way that you were talking about drawing as an anatomical act, just this act of the organs being involved, whether it's through this metabolism that you speak of or the respiration. I'd be curious, and Kira, I know this relates to your work as well, and really to Paulo, to yours also. Given that drawing here is positioned as this kind of relational exercise, this relational attunement of inside to outside, to the point where that boundary becomes very ambiguous and becomes very blurry, I'm curious how you think of drawing as, I don't want to say as a way to diagnose, but as a way to get a greater understanding of the body within its environment, and whether or not you can maybe determine if there's a kind of balance or an imbalance or ease or dis-ease, and just even sort of thinking about that as drawing as a diagnostic tool for the ecological state. Kira, yeah.
So I guess how do I approach this? So I would say if we take the macro first and we go, okay, this ecological state, and we ask ourselves the question, or we say to ourselves, wherever we are matters because it affects us. It affects us, our emotions, our moods, our behavior, our mode of being, how we orientate ourselves in the world. So if we take that as a premise that where we are matters, and then we go to the micro in terms of I'm a body in the world and I make marks on a page, and how I've kind of developed my practice, I guess, is those marks on a page are recording something that I find hard to articulate. For example, in that handball alley that I showed you, I know that place for many, many, many years, and I have worked in and around that place for many years. But there was I have to be careful now, because there was a sense in this place that I could never articulate, and other people who have been there also couldn't articulate it. It was just something beyond words, something, and everyone has this sense of a place. But I was only through this drawing process that I've developed, or a way of working, that this gestural drawing is not automatic. It is very much intentional, but it records those that it allowed me to listen to my body, which was also listening to that environment. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. And that reciprocity between the internal and the external, I think, is what I'm hearing. And Melissa, too, how did you notice your body adapting or expanding or being within the context while you were working?
I think I have a more like I try to use drawing to understand things, and I think is a bit different because I'm not trying to put myself there, but try to connect with the other person. And I believe that in our thinking, feeling, as Escobar says, is different. Mine is different than yours. So I'm trying to break or to close that gap a little bit through drawing. So it's an effort to understand what is outside my understanding. So it's an abstraction. I get to be. I'm not important, me myself, but try to visualize what the other person understands. That's kind of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Melissa. Like, I think for me, drawing is experience before it's a thought. So, but I would say that I'm not important to either. So the part that I'm trying to get at is nothing to do with Kira O'Toole necessarily, but absolutely to do with the fact that I'm human in the world. So if we all stood there and carried out this drawing process, you know, it doesn't really matter who's there. It's just about the bodies that are there, I guess. You know what I mean? So yeah, and so we're trying to communicate and two different things, I think, but in the same premise that it's not about Melissa and Kira. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, really great, because in fact, I fully understand both, and you are really deep on the subject, and I'm curious to know where Sarah positions herself on this. I don't know, like throwing the ball to Sarah.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've been taking, I wouldn't say furious notes, but frequent notes. And I'm finding as I'm going through my pages that I'm writing very similar things for each artist and each practitioner, even though practices may be coming from such diverse locations. And it comes from this idea of drawing as a way of experience, drawing within place. And I keep coming back to this idea of drawing as this skin between us and the world, and this, that it's porous, and that a drawing is something that both absorbs experience and allows us to express experience out. And Melissa, you used the word metabolism, which I thought was just so vital to all of this. So thinking of the drawings that we make as living systems, you know, that are not necessarily always ruled and regulated by a sense of intention, you know, or a sense of planning, but that they can be left open to chance and to instinct and to these more ineffable sensations, Kira, that you're picking up on, Melissa, that you're gathering from the land, Brent, that the bees are bringing to you, Max, that, you know, all of these associations are suggesting. So I would say that drawing is a phenomenology. It's a way of being in the world. It's a way of being a sensing body at any scale. You know, so whether it's massive or microscopic, drawing is a way for us to manifest experience and reflect it back into the environment that we find ourselves in. And that drawings are always in action and always changing, as we're always changing.
It was interesting because even Paulo, he was saying that also Max, in a certain way, they were saying that they were, for them, was a layer, a skin, as you were saying, but at the same time, it's sometimes it almost sounds that it's easier to communicate through drawing than through words, you know. So it's because it, I don't know, it have a dimension of other scales that are not codified in the words or in the letters, or, you know, it's something more, although they are full of preconceptions and of epistemic stuff, as Melissa points out very well. But on the other hand, looking inside, there's this contact that we have with this skin that's very human, very, you know, and
Right.
so this gathers all these different, you know, approaches. That's it.
Yeah, and I think also too, to circle to the organizing theme, you know, of nature drawing nature. You know, if we're talking about this transcendence of, you know, verbal language, you know, or this transcendence of a direct kind of A equals A symbolism, I think that is what vitalizes drawing, is that it allows us to access these natural processes that may transcend, you know, what we recognize as normal communicative language, but allows us to communicate on this deeper level where it's recognized by the body. You know, and Kira, you'd asked the question at the very outset to Max about drawing being a language. And I wonder if it gets closer to that kind of pattern language or language of nature that we're surrounded by, you know, and translating all the time through the act of drawing.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Pedro.
No. I was go, Kira. Shoot.
No, because as I was reflecting back on Max's working through and thinking through drawing, like just observing drawing practices and research over years. There's like two sort of fields that obviously cross over all the time, but there's like drawing as a way of thinking and all that means, and a drawing as a way of experience, and obviously they cross over. But drawing, and I think that to be specific when we say gestural drawing rather than, because drawing is so huge, it could be lots of different things. And in reference to Max's work, like even though he was drawing objects and things, I would be curious to he was also, I was really aware of where he was drawing and how it was affecting how he was drawing. So I always find that really interesting, just from my own selfish perspective.
Yeah, the context where
Context is, I don't think we can take one away from the other.
It was like Paulu was saying, when you have some kind of frequency around you, you draw like a flat tire.
And he's right. Sometimes I'm always drawing like flat tires, so he's right.
So it's interesting. Like, so I'm seeing the top layer of folks who have their cameras on. I keep going back to Ruth Broadbent, to your photo of yourself. I don't know if you're there or if you can hear me, but you're so immersed in the environment in which you're drawing, and I wonder, there you hi. And I'd be curious too what that level of immersion does to the practice, you know, so whether you're drawing at a remove or drawing with that kind of intimacy, how it changes the drawing itself because of the effect that the environment has on the person who draws, on the drawer.
Oh, hi, yes, thanks. I've actually lost my voice at the moment. I've got a bug, so I hope you can kind of just about hear a squeak. Yeah, kind of off the top of my head, I mean, there's so many resonances with quite a lot of what a lot of you have said here. But yeah, that drawing, the photograph there of me drawing on the beach, it's very much the way I work. It's kind of almost responding like the elements. So if it suddenly snows, or there's something about a beach as well, it's very playful. It's where we experiment. We just don't really worry about the end results. So yeah, so that's kind of just being there in a place and seeing what happens. And I mean, I guess there's threads that go through and repeated ways of working and back in the studio. But yeah, I love being outside and walking and seeing what happens.
Yeah, and that act of walking too, Melissa, you had spoken of the walk and the roads and sort of that act of the body moving through the environment being an act of drawing itself. Does it need to leave a trace, or is the act sufficient?
What do you mean by trace?
So when you're talking about the act of walking being a way of drawing, you know, so do you need to leave a particular kind of graphic trace, or can it be just the movement of your body through the environment? Is that enough to constitute a mark?
That's a hard question. I don't know how to answer, but I think so. Yeah, I mean, if we think a non-representative geographies is what they ask for, especially that not to represent necessarily and by fixing, but just to focus on moving, and the same in indigenous epistemologies, looking at the relations, not the positions. I think it could be a good way of switching that. But it was a hard question.
And not meant to be answered necessarily with a this is the answer. I mean, again, you spoke to it yourself as drawing as a way of coming to terms, or to understand, or to see what questions need to be asked beyond the most obvious.
I do have a thought about what you said, Sarah, that is, and it's pretty much connected with my research background and topic, that is street art and graffiti. That is, in the last, let's say, when you put all in abstract, our presence on the space just leave marks by being there. So you don't have to do it on purpose. So you don't need to be aware of it. You are leaving marks even of by the fact that you are living in that space, or you are there. And this is something that can be considered as mark making. And mark making, is it considered drawing? You know, I'm taking big steps here, but at the same time, I'm trying to go in your direction and some of my thought about this subject. And not resolved, not resolved. It's just like, floating thought. I don't know if we maybe we are in conditions to move forward for the final exercise.
Yeah, we could. I'm also curious too if there are additional questions for the three panelists, and Ruth too. I wanted to thank you for your comment, because it really did get to the heart of that question of immersion within the space that you're drawing to, or that you're drawing with, not necessarily drawing about, but within. Are there other questions or comments for Kira, Melissa, and Paulo? Otherwise we can draw.
Let's draw.
Excellent. Okay, so so I have not an exceptional surface here. Whatever you have, regardless of scale, regardless of material, this is just going to be about a 10-minute drawing. And Pedro, would you be able to make me a co-host so as to put people into breakout rooms when the time comes? What we're about to do is very experimental. It does not have any kind of expectation for what the outcome could or should be. If you end up just making one mark on the page, if you leave with an empty page, that is fine. If you sprawl onto multiples, please do. But as much as you can, please just try to bracket or shelve a sense of expectation. A lot of us draw for a living, and this idea of putting something onto the page and then sharing it with another may come with it a certain set of expectations. Please dissolve those as best you can. And I also want to give credit to the seed of this exercise to Angela Brew, who's part of the Thinking Through Drawing collaborative. She was doing these really lovely online tree drawing sessions, and was lucky to be a part of that. So what I'll do is, just for the next few minutes, we'll give a series of prompts, and whatever form those prompts take, please bring them to the page. And again, as I said, there's not a sense of what these need to look like, but there may be similarities. And I think that's part of what is just endlessly delightful about the act of drawing, is this recognition of the universality of certain marks. And that tends to play out within this context as well. So, so as we start, Even feel free just to close your eyes for a moment. We've been staring at a screen for the last 2.5, 3 hours. Close your eyes, allow yourself to hear your environment. Notice how your body is situated. Notice if you're holding any stress or tension anywhere, your jaw, your shoulders, your hips, your ankles. And with a breath out, allow any of that tension just to relax. Just the slightest bit, just even 10%. And using any kind of drawing tool, somewhere near the middle of your page, draw a small seed of some sort. Your eyes can be open for this, your eyes can be closed. But allow your hand to plant on the page a form that you consider to be a seed. Something that contains kinetic energy, that contains potential energy. Notice the pressure of your hand, the direction of your mark, the speed of your mark. And with the next breath, with the next exhale, allow a root to grow from the seed. And allow that root to become a network. As tendrils extend and begin to fill the page, side to side, up and down. And notice too, if you can start to coordinate the act of drawing the roots to your own act of breathing, to your own sense of gravity. What is pulling on your body right now? What is pulling on your hand? Notice what happens if you bring both hands to the tool. Just give yourself a moment to feel that back and forth of inhale and exhale, of lines ebbing and flowing, and of a root structure growing. Notice as the pressure changes, the length, the direction of your mark, the quality of your gesture. Allowing yourself again to release any tension that your body is feeling, just allowing it to dissolve in the drawing. As we approach the next mark, allow your seed to sprout upward. Rooted with a firm foundation, allow a trunk, a stem. It does not have to be literal. But see what happens as the seed takes bloom and begins to grow. Notice the sound that your tool is making on the page. Hear the sound of this being as it begins to take form. As your plant grows, it takes on qualities, it takes on character, What qualities can you translate through the mark? And how can you accentuate some of those qualities? We've been talking so much today about the interplay between the built and the natural environments, a sense of architecture, a sense of landscape. For the next minute, place your seed, place your plant within its context. Whether it's a built context, a human context, a natural one, place it into a landscape. Allow it to be within a space. And notice too, just how even one mark creates a sense of place. One mark creates an imagined place or an imagined space. And the drawing itself becomes a site. The drawing itself becomes an environment in which to reside. As the drawing evolves, allow your next mark to create an atmosphere. This can be Kira's sense of atmospheres. It can simply be the weather. Is it dark? Is it light? Is there wind? Is there snow? And in this moment too, this drawing becomes this confluence of memory, observation, and imagination. If you had to translate your current environment, your present atmosphere, the qualities that your own body is experiencing right now, how would those translate into marks? As our atmosphere is both physical and felt, it is also conceptual, it's mentally understood. Add elements to your drawing that reflect anything cultural, political, social, personal. We move into kind of the realm of personal symbolism too at this point. What else does this drawing ask for right now that can reflect you within your environment, your mental environment, your social environment? Just even going intuitively, what does it need right now to become an extension of you? May also take the form of physically observing, visually observing what you're surrounded by right now in the real concrete world and integrating that into the body of the drawing as well. As Paulo mentioned too, the flat tire of the drawing, allowing the language of mark, the language of medium, to inform the valence of the drawing. By extending yourself into the material, how do you create a drawing that's an extension of your own experience right now? We'll just take one more minute. Noticing how it evolves, noticing how it can move. And if there's anything from any of the talks that you heard today that can now factor in some way, just in the form of memory, how can they also play a role in this image? You're holding your breath, allow it out. Notice how your body moves with your marks, how your body moves within the space that you've just created. Space that was not there 6 minutes ago. And again, just one more minute to integrate anything that you've seen, that you've heard over the last 2 hours, either in symbolic form or quite literally. Is there anything like this needs a crab? Hold on. And again, with a breath, what else does this need to be in balance, to be more alive? And Pedro, I'm wondering, could you put people into breakout rooms, or if you make me a co-host, I think I can do it, but.
I've placed you as host.
Oh, there it is. I have host tools. Oh my goodness. Like Paulo, I haven't used this for, so. Okay.
I don't know if it's possible.
It doesn't look like it's letting me do that. So I think we could do this without, because I know a couple people are needing to run. Do you have the ability to put people into groups of 4?
I don't know how to do that here.
Okay.
Let me see if I can. Because here in Zoom, like boards, I don't know.
I think we may be breakout room free. I think it's not happening. That is fine. But
Yeah.
With that in mind, I think then we can just do sort of a group disclosure, and maybe even, I don't know how we are for time, but I think just to be able to sort of see if we could. Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Sort of doing a hold up and being able to see the similarities of people's drawings. And if anyone would like to speak specifically to this idea that I think goes into this notion of the embodied drawing, what did you notice about your own, the way that you were in your space over that 10 minutes of drawing? Like, what happened to your breath? What happened to your sense of just your tactile sense, your atmospheric sense. I'd be very curious just to hear how drawing changes us within the process. So we could do if everyone is doing if people don't object to showing themselves and by extension their drawings, just being able to put these on a. And if your background is blurred, then your drawing will be blurred, sadly. But
yeah,
I've got issues.
Oh, very cool. Ruth, pull yours back just a little bit, please. Oh, Ruth, unblur your background. Oh, Melissa, I love that. Excellent. I love seeing these. Brent.
Great, we
Nice.
can't see yours. Right there. Okay, gorgeous. Oh, look at Laura's. The white.
I love the inversion. You're in space. Oh, Laura.
That's great.
Oh, hello. Are you? Oh, I thought. Okay, I saw the drawing behind you. Like,
oh, there's Max. Yeah, great.
Very cool.
Cool.
So you and Max, yes. Bjorn.
Bjorn, fantastic.
Wonderful. Great, thank you. So could we talk again? Just, I don't want to put too many words. I don't want to kill the magic of the moment by naming what just happened. But if anyone would like to speak to what they noticed about their own way of just being in that moment, did it shift? What does drawing do to us as bodies?
Who's the brave first? Yeah,
I think it makes you feel present. I mean, I don't think you can draw without being present necessarily. It makes us connected to because we're putting something out onto a surface that's connected to the world. So it makes us present and connected at the same time.
I had moments of letting myself go, but many other moments of like trying. I was very aware that I was rationalizing and I was taking even notes about the process that you were conducting. But at a certain point, I let myself go. But and then I was worried about saturation of the page. I was kind of worried that something was not on my control, was already off boundaries because, and yeah, that was my feeling overall, but was an enjoyable moment. Yeah, I don't know, someone else.
At the beginning, I let me go. Like when I planted the seed was very nice and things growing, but then things got more complex. And then I felt that the drawing was not so fluid. So at the beginning, I tried to comply with the instructions, but then I just let go. Like the instructions were in the background and I just tried to follow the drawing myself.
Yes, yay, excellent. How would the drawing have looked different, do you think, if you hadn't done that?
If I was more precise with instructions,
yeah.
I don't know, it would have become more human, the environment, like less nature, for example. But that was bothering me at the moment because I went to a place that was nice and I didn't want to ruin it.
Yeah, no, it was interesting with that introduction of like integrating content. And I was like, this now becomes a thought exercise. This isn't about the body. This is about adding a swarm of Brent's bees, in the effort to synthesize the thought experiment. But yes to staying within that sense of just the organic, like what's growing and what does it want and what does it need?
Yeah, there was a background, so I didn't let it go totally, but it was like a fight there, but mostly I let it go. Like I tried to follow my hand.
Good.
Judith, go for it.
Yeah, I finally got the video on. I didn't realize I could. I didn't follow all your instructions. I followed the first bit, And because I really liked the notion of the seed, you'll see why.
Mhm.
Can you see that?
Oh, wait, hold on. Can I
Can you
highlight
see
you?
that or not? There. So
Yes.
I've been collecting these and I haven't started drawing them yet. So you've actually sort of seen your way into that. It's like it's the root and what the plant that was above it. And I'm not a good gardener, so I get quite a lot of these. But they're so beautiful. So anyway, so I did all these blind. I don't know if you can see my drawing. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, so when you went to the other instructions, I didn't follow because I was having, to be honest, I was like, oh my God, you've done this.
I can't tell you how happy this makes me that those were discarded or that they became noise or they became optional. Like it just, again, it came back to end. And Isabel, you had said the same as well. Like you just allowed it to just carry on.
It was going to clutter, it was going to really clutter what was a really beautiful, simple kind of sort of growth from the base up to the what was the plant, as it were. And it was, I couldn't ruin it with that.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the sense of expansion worked. That it started growing and then the page wanted to grow, like and I kind of realized now I'm thinking of like a scroll or like in the process that there shouldn't be the limit, but yeah. I like that idea.
Did you go beyond the initial page?
Well, yeah, I started with half a page and then I went more and more. So yeah.
So I know, Pedro, I know using this maybe as a bridge to tomorrow as well. We have a full slate of talks on the horizon. Would you
Yes.
like to say somewhat about how we transition to the content of tomorrow's conference?
Let me check. Well, tomorrow we'll have again at the same time, same time slot, let's say, that starts at 6:30 Lisbon time and ends more or less at 8 from here. Please check the time difference. It has some changes. In the previous Sunday had some changes, so recheck the thing. We'll have the same structure, more or less, 2 panels with a break. The first panel, it's mostly composed of people that are, more on this nature thing. And in the second panel, it's more the relation of the human, the body, and how we are antennas, interfaces, skins, with the question of drawing both inside and outside. So we have, well, I will not describe all the participations because it will take too much time, but will be people from Greece, UK, India, Australia, Germany, Ireland, and well, Australia again. And there will be plenty interesting, pretty interesting contributions, I'm sure of that. And if it matches the day of today, it'll be a really nice pack of information to be shared and to add to the day of today. So it's amazing how this idea grew and so fast, and it's getting this form. So from one side, so experimental. For the other side, I think there's lots of juice coming out of this. So yeah, there's tomorrow, and please, if you can come, tell your colleagues to come if they are interested. And from my side, this is it. I'm very happy with the day of today and very grateful for you all, for your presence, for your contributions, and I hope that you enjoyed also. And I will leave the last words for Kira and Sarah, for you to conclude this first day.
You go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, again, Pedro, I want to thank you so much for all the organizational effort and vision that you've put towards this. So it is not easy to get people from all over the globe to come together in such a way. And I think this is it's inspirational on so many levels. So thank you. And thank you to all the presenters today, and looking forward so much to hearing the talks tomorrow as well. And it's also so fantastic to see so many people here just to take part and to absorb and to be able to integrate it into this larger sense of the drawing community and drawing practice. So thank you everyone for being here, and thank you Pedro again for making this happen.
Thanks, Pedro. Yeah, exactly what Sarah, just echo what Sarah said. It's so fantastic. Thanks, Pedro, for organizing this, and like you said, just people from all over the world, which is so phenomenal and just could not happen otherwise. So thank you, Zoom.
In some ways the technology doesn't help, and the other ways it helps. So yeah, it's we need to take the good part out of it.
Indeed.
So hopefully see you tomorrow, you all, and more. And take care. Stay well. Good lunch, dinner, breakfast, I don't know. Everything for you. Okay. Stay well. Bye-bye. Thank you for that. Bye-bye.
Go well all. Cheers. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I will stop recording now.